Hello, I'm Michael Pierce, and this is The Human Condition. Today we're talking about radiant health on a budget. With the advent of COVID and all the different things that have happened to us in the last couple of years, the price of healthcare and the price of being well has become just astronomical for many people. And with 30% increases in costs across the world, I'm hearing about food prices in Europe, fuel prices in the United States, and everywhere. Healthcare is the same type of problem. It always goes up, it never goes down. But there are a lot of things you can do to take care of yourself that don't cost a lot of money. And there's a couple things that cost a little bit more and are worth it. So I'm just going to go through those real quick with you today. The fastest way to make a person feel healthier is to reduce their carb ratio. Reduce their carb ratio. That doesn't mean just reduce their calories. We're not talking about counting calories, we're talking about counting carbs. So when we talk about counting carbs, in most cases we're talking about counting the carbs that are on a food label. We're not talking about counting fiber, although there are some real problems with fiber, which is another lesson that I can't get into today. But we're not talking about counting total carbs or total fiber, we're talking about net carbs. So net carbs are the kind that are burned. So we're talking about trying to reduce the carbs down compared to fats and proteins. We're not talking about a high protein diet, we're talking about higher fat and lower carbs. Now, what are these fats? We're not talking about seed oils, we're not talking about processed seed oils, we're not talking about fast food, we're not talking about commercial beef, we're not talking about feedlot beef, we're talking about grass-fed and organic meat, we're talking about organic oils like avocado oil. Those are the types of things that we're discussing here for that purpose. It's not to say that anything commercial is going to be perfectly fine, in my opinion. There's always a trade-off, though. If you're totally poor, there are ways to eat healthy, and that's another lecture. But if you have a little bit of money, there's best ways to spend your money. Reducing lectins is the next one. Reducing lectins is a difficult problem, but it can be very easy if you learn to look at a list of lectins. You can go online and look up very quickly a list or a pictograph of which foods contain the highest amount of lectins. There are lots of doctors that talk about this, not just me, but lectins are something that can cause a lot of digestive pain, a lot of discomfort, and a lot of illness that build up in a person's body, and over time they can create problems in joints, problems with autoimmunity, problems with blood sugar, problems with female hormone systems and male hormone systems, problems with fertility. It's really quite a big problem, and it's under-discussed these days and not talked about enough. The next one that has to do a lot with pain and dysfunction and ADHD is oxalates. If a person has too much oxalates, and once again, we'll have links below on where you can find pictographs or pictures or charts and tables that show you which foods are the highest in oxalates and which foods are the lowest. I'll give you a little spoiler alert. Spinach is the highest oxalate food of all. So if you can avoid these oxalates, you can avoid things like many kidney stones, certainly not all of them, but you can avoid kidney stones, you can avoid a lot of joint pain, and you can avoid a condition called pseudo-gout, which is where a person has gout-like pains, but it's not from uric acid, it's from oxalic acid. And so these oxalate crystals can deposit in your joints, they can deposit in your eyeballs, they can deposit in your brain. They are implicated in ADHD in children, and they're implicated in autism. They're also a problem for pain throughout the body, and very often they throw off chiropractors who are adjusting people trying to get rid of a pain that they think is spinal related, and it may not be spinal. It may be joint related or muscle related by oxalate deposits throughout the body. And sometimes they deposit in different places randomly. We don't really know why. Another one is to look at reduce the toxins that are in food. So look for foods that are non-GMO, that are glyphosate free or Roundup free, and foods that are organic. And I know this is more expensive, but you'll save so much money on not eating all the other foods that you might be happy at how much money you've got left over to buy healthy organic meats. And if you're not eating meat, that's okay. If you're not eating meat, look for super clean grains. And it's going to be difficult because there was just a study released about how much oats have glyphosate. So we've got to be very careful of oats and oat milk, which is something that I was even enjoying, and I'm not doing it anymore because of that. Another thing you can do is reduce your omega-6 fat consumption. Wherever you've got animals, that you're eating animals, or animal fats, or oils, or salad dressings, please try to reduce omega-6 fats and increase omega-3s. So now we get into what you can increase that's pretty cheap. Omega-3 fats aren't terribly expensive to buy. You can get them fairly cheaply. You can buy minerals and salt very cheaply. You can buy B-complex vitamins cheaply. Now there's a whole load of problems with B-complex that I get into in my other videos, but you can get B-complex in animal foods, especially organ meats. You can get B-complex in brewer's yeast. I've got another topic on brewer's yeast types to respond to our viewers in another video. And you can increase the omega-3 fats as we talked about. So you'll spend a little bit more money on organic meat and organic produce and organic grains if you're forced to eat grains because of your diet choices. That's okay. And we need to get omega-3 fats. Those are the two things that are the most expensive. Minerals are pretty cheap and B vitamins are pretty cheap. And the last few things about radiant health on a budget is intermittent fasting. That's simply where you've got 16 hours between your last meal and your next meal. If you can get 16 hours in and still drink water, that's very, very useful for helping the metabolism. It's very safe for a lot of people. There are a few people that can't handle that kind of challenge, and they might end up with a bit of hypoglycemia and get the shakes or get sweaty or get really scared and anxious and start getting the shakes because they've got hypoglycemia. You need to have clean water. It's very important to have reverse osmosis water that filters out the fluoride, the chlorine, the bromine, the lead, the antibiotics that are in the water, the SSRI drugs, the antidepressants, the psychotropic drugs, the glyphosate. There's a lot of stuff that doesn't make it past our water treatment plants, and we're drinking it. And it's a big problem for us today. So you've got to get clean water. You cannot rely on tap water as safe, in my opinion. And then lastly, fix your teeth. If you've got teeth problems, get to a holistic dentist, get to a biologic dentist, get to somebody who can help you with brushing, flossing, and water picking, because water picking is extremely useful. You want to be able to properly water pick to clean your gums on a daily basis. We're not talking about blasting your gums in any one session, but 1 second per tooth, and not aiming up in the gums, 1 second per tooth, just gently every single day washing out or lavaging all those bacteria that are all around in the gums. And not only does it wash out the bad bacteria and helps you with removing plaque, but it also is very good for stimulating the gums and helping them grow and stimulating the bone and the gum margin where the bone and gum meets. So this is extremely useful for you. These are all very cheap. Floss doesn't cost very much. Toothbrushes don't cost very much. You don't need toothpaste. You can just use the brush. And if you get a water pick, you can buy a water pick. I've just priced them. They're $25. A good one is $25. You can get lesser ones for even less. There are even mechanical water picks that are less powerful that you can get for $9 that are just hand pump versions. They use water pressure from a hand pump. They don't even use electricity or batteries. All right, that's Radiant Health on a budget.